Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we are discussing the art of not taking anything personally. This is a topic that I wrote about when I was still in the thick of learning this lesson. Not taking anything personally has never been easy for me. I would definitely consider myself a very sensitive person now that I'm looking back on my life. And there's many beautiful benefits to being a sensitive person. We have a very heightened intuition. We are very compassionate and empathetic people, which really is very healing to be around for others. But sometimes we feel so deeply, so easily, that we forget that we have the ability to turn that on and off as we please. Now, had I heard that when I was younger, and I feel like I've definitely been told quite a few times when I was younger not to be so sensitive. That has always hurt my feelings because I always felt like this is how I was born. Of course I'm going to be sensitive. Of course things are going to hurt my feelings. I just always felt like it was something that was beyond my control. And to a certain extent, it is. We're not fully in control of the emotions that we feel, but we are in full control of what we do with the emotions that we feel. And that's what this episode is really going to be about. I'm not here to tell you to not be sensitive. I think it's beautiful. And I also think that you're very lucky if you're a sensitive person. It's very hard to be sensitive in this world where there is just so much that we see nowadays, whether we see killings of innocent people, the crimes that people commit that we're aware of. I can go on and on. Those are things that once you hear them enough times and once you've seen it enough times, it's hard to be moved by it. But when you're sensitive, it's almost as if every time you hear of something sad going on in the world, or perhaps someone in your life is struggling with something, it's very easy to put yourself in their shoes, feel compassionate, and extend your love and support. And I don't want to take that away from anyone. If anything, I hope that I'm super clear when I say, if you are one of those people, never let go of that part of yourself. It's truly the most humane part of yourself. And it is truly a superpower to be able to connect so deeply to the emotions of others and to your own emotions as well. The 4 steps that I'm going to cover are the following. 1, feel deeply without absorbing everything. Step 2, let people's reactions belong to them. Step 3, stop expecting people to tread lightly. And step 4, remember everyone is caught up in their own world. Let's get straight into it. Step 1, feel deeply without absorbing everything. I always like to use myself as an example because I feel like I know myself best. When I think back to the version of myself that had a hard time not taking things personally, I remember feeling overwhelmed by certain emotions. Whether I was hurt, I was offended, or saddened by something someone said to me or did to me, those feelings would feel so strong and so intense, whether or not the situation was that serious. Nonetheless, the feeling was very strong within me, and I didn't know how to process it. I'll be completely honest. I didn't know what to do with all that emotion within me. I just didn't enjoy how it felt. I didn't enjoy feeling very hurt. I didn't enjoy feeling very sad. And instead of allowing myself to accept how I felt, even though it's uncomfortable to sit in, I would try to think myself through the emotion. That is something that I've had to work on my whole life. I would always come to a conclusion where the things that other people did that hurt my feelings was personal. They did it knowing that it was rude, insulting, inconsiderate, fill in the blank, and they chose to do it anyways because they didn't care about how I might feel. That was really the conclusion that I got to at the end of every situation that I took personally. And without realizing it, what I was actually doing was I was absorbing the feelings of the person that was saying the negative comment. I was absorbing the feelings of the person that was inconsiderate and did something without thinking about how I would feel. And I was unaware that although the energy of what had happened was hurtful, inconsiderate, offensive, I had a choice as to whether or not I accepted those feelings as my own. That might sound a little complicated, so I'm going to try to simplify it with an example. If we're in a heated discussion with someone and we can feel that tension in the air, we can allow it to make us on edge and reactive, or we can feel the tension in the room, notice how it doesn't feel good, and decide that we're not going to participate in it. We're not going to allow that tension to influence how we react in the situation. And that's basically the essence of this step. Because in order to feel deeply without absorbing everything, you have to be aware enough of the feelings that are surrounding you, and you have to allow it to exist around you, but also not participate in it. Don't allow it to consume you to the point where you feel like you have no choice but to react in certain ways. Because when we do that, when we allow our emotions to persuade us to react without thinking, we're losing self-control. That's number one. And number two, we're not dealing with our emotions. When someone is angry and they yell at someone, that's not getting your anger out. That's avoiding sitting with the discomfort of your anger, getting a temporary relief because you're expressing some sort of frustration, but you're still angry. It's best to pause when we feel triggered, when we feel like we're taking something personally, even if we have every right to take things personally. I'm not going to sit here and pretend we all don't have a strong intuition. We do. And we can sense when someone is really out for blood. They really want to hurt our feelings. They really want to strike a nerve. There are people that do that. But again, the way that we react is on us. And we're not necessarily not taking things personally to prove anything to anyone. We're not doing this to prove that we're nonchalant. We're not doing this to prove that we're unbothered. Things are allowed to bother us, but we're not going to lose our cool because someone else is putting their negative energy and attitude on us. Before we move on to step 2, I just want to say, when I started getting really good at this, and it feels strange saying that because I really wasn't good at this for so long. Whenever I'm in a situation like this, where someone says a comment and I know the intention was a little malicious, or someone did something that was a little inconsiderate, and I knew that they knew better and they just chose not to do better, I don't react. Because I realized many times people are looking for a reaction. Many times the people that are making the comments and the people that are doing unnecessary things that are inconsiderate, it's truly just a reflection of what's going on within themselves. Perhaps in their own personal life, someone is also putting them down. Perhaps in their own personal life, someone is inconsiderate with them. There's actually a quote that I would always hear and learn growing up. The things that bother us about other people are things that we haven't accepted within ourselves. For example, if we don't like that people are inconsiderate, and that's just something that always pisses us off with other people, then it's something that we really need to go within and evaluate within ourselves, because it's most likely that we are inconsiderate in our own lives with certain people and we are just so unaware of it. It's almost like we're unconscious in that area of our personality. And it's nothing to feel shame about. It's very easy for us as people to see the flaws in other people's personalities. But when it's ourselves, it's very, very hard to see our own flaws. So allow that to help you gain self-awareness, and also allow that to help you not take things personally with other people. Step 2, let people's reactions belong to them. This is a fun one. At least it is for me, because for so long, I don't know why I was like this, but I always felt responsible for people's feelings. I always felt like if someone was upset with me, or if someone was sad, even if I wasn't the cause of it, I felt like because I was so sensitive, I knew what would cheer them up. I knew what would get them over their anger. So I felt as if it was my responsibility to get them back to feeling happy. That makes things very complicated and sticky, because it creates relationship dynamics where one person is highly lacking self-awareness because they don't have to sit with their own feelings. The other person is going to swoop in and save the day so that they're not feeling down, they're not feeling angry. And it's also stressful for the person that feels responsible for other people's emotions. That's when you start to turn into a people pleaser because you don't want to have to deal with the burden of having to help someone that's angry or sad become happy again. It gets very draining, so you try to avoid it altogether. But then you become a shell of a person. You don't always share what you think, what you feel, because it just doesn't seem worth it. It seems easier to just avoid upsetting the other person. What really changed my mindset when it comes to allowing people to deal with their reactions themselves, I learned that when we don't allow people to sit with their feelings, it delays their growth. It delays their ability to increase their self-awareness. And not only is that detrimental to the person, it's detrimental to us because then we remain in these relationships with people that are emotionally immature, and we don't want that at all. The only way for someone to really grow out of their emotional immaturity is for them to have to sit with themselves, face their emotions. And that includes all the negative emotions: sadness, guilt, shame, fear. People have to sit in them and feel them and process them. And nobody should be intervening with them so that we allow all these emotions to teach us what they need to teach us so that we can grow and become a more evolved, self-aware individual. This is reminding me of the whole movement that happened quite a few years ago, and it had to do with our freedom of speech in the United States. People were saying that there were certain words you shouldn't be using because they're offensive to certain people, and if you were to say those words, you can lose your job, this, that, and the other. Now, this might be a bit controversial. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel very strongly that there's certain words that should never be used. But in all honesty, we can't shelter ourselves from things that are going to hurt us. We can't avoid getting our feelings hurt. Even if we make it illegal, we can't prevent our feelings from getting hurt. So instead of avoiding it and delaying that moment when we get our feelings hurt, we should just work on preparing ourselves for those moments so that we know how to deal with them and they don't overwhelm us and consume us. It's okay for people to get triggered. It's okay for people to get angry, and it's okay for people to be sad. In fact, it's great. It's great if you get triggered. It's great if you get sad, and it's great if you get angry. And I didn't know that for a long time. I always tried to avoid those feelings for as long as possible because I thought they were harmful, but they weren't. They were just uncomfortable. And discomfort is good. Discomfort means you're growing and you're expanding. Comfort is avoidance. Avoidance of self, avoidance of reality, and we need it. Sometimes we need that comfort to soothe, but we can't use it as a crutch and we can't use it to escape ourselves and our reality. Without triggers, we wouldn't know what needed to change within us. Without anger, we wouldn't know where we were frustrated and where we needed to change something in our environment. Without sadness, we wouldn't even fully understand what made us happy. We need that polarity. We need that contrast to really understand the more positive emotions that we all are seeking in our life. Happiness, inner peace, acceptance. We can't have one without the other. So to deny those negative emotions to other people is doing a disservice to them. Step 3, stop expecting people to tread lightly. I really had myself in mind with this step. I remember trying to work on this when I was younger. I didn't want to take things personally. I really did not like that I was sensitive. I hated it, actually. And I wished I could just be like my friends, like the people around me that were just unbothered by life, or so it seemed. And I would just get so angry with myself and so frustrated by my own personality that I kind of gave myself this tough love pep talk to remember that not everything is about me. People say insensitive things all the time, and yet it's not really personal. At least that's what I've realized in my own life. Many times if someone says something insensitive to me, they do it a lot to other people. It's honestly part of their personality at this point. Therefore, it's not specifically aimed at me. It's just their personality coming out. And it was going to come out whether or not I was there. The thing was, at that time in my life, I didn't realize that if I was going to be so hard on myself and so negative, I was never going to grow, because you can't bully yourself into growing. You have to love yourself into growing. And there's no shortcut around that, honestly. That's why I started this podcast and started writing, because I just wanted to help people get to that point where they truly learn to love themselves, release whatever is holding them back from loving themselves, so that they can start to clear out all of this baggage that just gets in our way of being happy and feeling more love for ourselves. So as tough love as this step might sound, it's very important. Just make sure that when you're implementing it, you're doing it from a place of self-love. You're telling yourself, because you love yourself, to stop expecting people to tread lightly. Why do people have to be sensitive to how we feel? We expect people to walk on eggshells around us at times to avoid hurting our feelings, but at the same time, we've been in those positions, as we discussed in step 2, where we avoid getting the other person angry or upset. We know that it feels uncomfortable to do that. So the same way that people might say something insensitive to us or just do something inconsiderate and they don't think twice about it, they let us sit in our feelings, we have to accept that that is perfect. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. The same thing goes for how we respond to other people that get upset and triggered by the things that we do. And that touches on that quote that I mentioned in step 1, how the things within other people that bother us is truly a reflection of something that we have a hard time accepting within ourselves. So we might have a hard time accepting that we are walking on eggshells with other people, avoiding getting them angry, avoiding getting them upset. But at the same time, we're getting upset when other people don't do the same thing to us. It's something to think about. Step 4, remember everyone is caught up in their own world. This gets talked about a lot, but it needs to be mentioned in this topic. We all know that the way that we see life is different from the people around us, because we all grew up differently. We all are different people. We're all unique. It's not a debate. It's just the truth. So when someone says something, does something that is rude, obnoxious, insensitive, hurtful, so on and so forth, it's really not personal. I mentioned briefly in step 3 that someone that says something rude to us is most likely saying something rude to multiple people on a daily basis. It's rare that you meet someone that is never rude to anyone and they're only rude to you. Perhaps those kind of people exist, but I have yet to meet one. It's all about zooming out instead of zooming in. Many times we zoom in too much to the details of a circumstance, of what was said, that we forget to zoom out and look at the big picture. When we zoom out, we can really ask ourselves, did this person really do this to ruin my whole day? Did this person really do this to make me sad? Maybe. On the surface, the answer is yes. But if you zoom out a bit more, you could ask yourself, well, why would they do that? And if you ask yourself why, you're going to realize the why has nothing to do with you. The why is probably because they're hurting within themselves. They get mistreated in their own life. And although that's not an excuse on how to treat other people, it at least allows you to detach from what was said and what was done. And it protects you from absorbing their negative emotions. So the next time you feel triggered and you feel yourself taking something personally, the first thing you should do is pause. No reaction is the best reaction. Once you've done that, you have more control over what you're going to do next. In my personal experience, I let the person sit with what they said. If someone is saying something rude, I probably won't respond, because many times people just want a response. They want to get you onto their level and feeling the way that they feel in that moment. If that's unavoidable, if you have to respond, I make sure my response is neutral, and I also make sure that I am accepting of the situation for whatever it is. Even if something hurt my feelings, it hurt my feelings, but I'm not taking it personally. We're allowed to do both at the same time. If you want to take it a step further, you can journal about it with yourself. You can write down what bothered you and write about why. And I bet you that if you allow yourself to just write freely for a few minutes, you'll get to the bottom of it. Sometimes we just don't have an outlet. We don't always want to go to our friends and our family and rant about why we've taken things personally and explain why things hurt our feelings, especially when they're not as sensitive as us. They're probably just going to tell us it wasn't personal. But you know yourself best. So sit with yourself, process the feeling, and write. I'll always, always advise everyone to write and journal. It's the best way to connect with yourself and build a great relationship with yourself. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I hope it gave you some tools and some advice for the next time you feel like something that was done to you or said to you was personal. I know that these steps have definitely helped me, and they still help me to this day. I don't think it completely goes away, taking things personally, but the more that you remind yourself that nothing is truly personal, the easier and quicker it is for you to remember it and act on that truth. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. If you enjoyed this topic, please rate this podcast and share this with a friend or a family member if you think that they would benefit from this. I hope you have an amazing week. I love you so much. Until next time, bye for now.